Hi, and welcome back to the sculpting class. We are in session 8, and if we look on our Mario map, that means hard surface. And you might ask, wait, we do hard surface in ZBrush? I mean, organic forms are complex enough, right? And I have to admit, not everything should be done in ZBrush, and there are faster ways sometimes in your normal 3D modeling software. However, there are ways to do hard surface in ZBrush. Just so you know, people do it. And they might be a bit crazy, but it is possible. And we won't do a robot. We also won't do, so to say, hard surface equipment, as I was saying in the Mario map. What we will do instead is we will do the clothing for our characters, the remaining parts, and we will learn the basics of how to modify topology with a Z-modeler brush, for example, using the deformers a bit, which kind of is the starting point if you want to get into hard surface in ZBrush, just so that you can kind of fix the meshes and topology within the software, because sometimes that's faster than exporting it out for just one step. So, as I said, today we will talk about the Z-modeler more, the deformers, and custom primitives. And your task will be to create the remaining clothing and accessories if you're on the timeline, and upload a screenshot of your process. All the views that we are looking at before already. So this time basically is the last time that we talk about adding new stuff to our character, and next session will be about posing the character and presenting it. So in theory, this the homework of today would mark the date where we finish the character. However, I do know that it's a lot of workload, and many people, maybe for thickness, because of sickness, or maybe because they I don't know, lots of stuff is going on, that not everyone's at the step here right now. And this is why I kept the homework open and called it process. So please upload what you have so we can still get you feedback for the step that you're currently working at. But just upload whatever you have for this week's homework. That's it. I will open ZBrush and also upload the ZBrush cheat sheet for the Z-modeler and some more interesting things. So you can look at that while I open ZBrush, because the Z project files take a bit to open up. All right. So I did a bit of homework, and I want to show you for what we are doing today for the male character. So basically, we will look at the cape. This over here. So basically, if you're doing the female or the male character, the kind of workflow isn't too different. So for the cape, we start out with some sort of cylinder. Let's go back in time. Okay, I can't go too much back, but we will start out with a cylinder and then stitch the top part together with the hanging part. So we keep them as two separate meshes in the start and then stitch them together. And then we will do the skirt with one primitive, the same as we do with the big part here. One interesting part, if you haven't done that already, she wears a headpiece, like a small, I don't know, princess crown, I don't know what, or a headband maybe. So we do that this time as well. And then for the shoes, both of them had a very thin sole. And we can do that by extracting the bottom part and then adding some thickness to it. And then we have a clean separate mesh for the sole. So this is what we can do today. And then for the male character, as I said, like she has this headpiece and the male character has a bit more going on. So the hat, basically the same. We do one primitive and we extract something. So you know all that already. And the same workflow we use for the bottom coat and skirt, we can also apply to this top part. And then one last important thing is we need to talk about the collar, but with the tools that we learned today, this is going to be easy too. All right. So for the female character, I've also added some eyelashes too. And what I like to do as well is to add the pupils for the eyes. And I'll upload a recording tomorrow, I think, or maybe this evening too, how I did the eyelashes really quick. And if you want to do that, or if you already did it, just as an information, I kind of took this poly group, the pink and the green ones, and I duplicated it, and then I used them for the eyelashes, and then for the eyebrows I extracted them, but this will be shown in the video just as a workflow because we haven't covered that in the hair session last time. All right, so I will delete this one and delete the skirt too. And we kind of start out with the base body, show our reference here in the background, and let's do the skirt. And some of you in the blockout, for example, you guys used a cylinder, which is great because a skirt looks like a cylinder, and you put it into place, maybe like that, and then you kind of happy, yay. But one problem that we have is that a skirt is not closed at the bottom, and when we create clothing for characters, we want them to be thin objects, not filled cubes, but like a thin layer of clothing. So we kind of need to delete the cap here at the bottom. And I assigned a shortcut for solo mode, by the way. So every time you see everything else disappear and I want to isolate this one, it's because I used the shortcut that I created. So if you go to transform and solo, this is the button I'm kind of pressing. And if you, any of these, basically, if you like them and you use them a lot, you can go Control Alt and then click on this button, and you see the pop-up message at the top left. Press any key combination to assign a custom hotkey, and then without moving the mouse, that's important, I press 1 on the keyboard, and if you do that for the first time, it gives you a warning that 1 as a shortcut is already being used, and if you want to override it, and because I never used the other one, I just simply overwrote the shortcut that has been there. So all right, let's look at the mesh here. And Shift P, for example, is for the references. So this is easier than going over here for me. Okay, so this is the topology that we have right now. First, there are 2 problems with this mesh. First one is, like I said, I want to delete the caps. And second one is this geometry is very dense. And if I have simple shapes like that, I rather prefer to work with a geometry that it's a bit less dense. So what we can do here is we will go to the gizmo, and the gizmo has this gear icon, and up here in the top row, you might have seen all these primitives. One of them is the cylinder 3D, and all of these ones here can be modified. So if we add a cylinder over here, it will always have exactly this topology. If we then, after adding it here, go to the gizmo and then we pick another one, for example, this cylinder, first of all, it's very tiny, as you can see here. So I can go to the gizmo again, make it larger. And then we can change the topology. So I click on the gear icon again, cylinders 3D, and then here with the white one, you can see I can add a hole to the cylinder, and then on the red one I can increase the resolution, so I can even make it like low poly if I want to, and then here I can increase the resolution along that axis. So this is great to create the base of our skirt And what we need here is this one should be closed. And then here for the resolution, we want to pick something that is divided by 4. Why do we need that? Because then we get a horizontal axis and we get a vertical axis. So if we work with symmetry, it's working very nicely. So you can pick 12, or in my case, I'll go with 16 if it lets me. Yeah. And then here we want to have topology that is not as like stretched, because we want the quads to be even. So I will go with this resolution here. Then we go to the usual gizmo, and then we can rotate, bring in our reference again, scale it. And the first step is done. We have now topology that we can use. The second step is, as I said, we need to delete top and bottom cap. And for that, we can use the Z modeler. And for this deleting the caps, there are 2 different ways that we can go about it. One of them is the Z modeler, and I will show the second way too. So with a Z modeler, we can hover over faces, edges, and points, and it would do a different action every time. So if I hover over a face and right-click, I can choose what ZBrush is doing whenever I left-click on a face. And the thing I want to do here is delete, and I can here delete a single poly. So if I delete one face and I click on it, you see this takes a bit of time, and there's one smarter target that I can pick here, which is flat island. So if I have delete, I usually have either the single poly or flat island or maybe a poly loop. So flat island, what it does is if there's a flat face, like the top here, I can simply hit delete on one face and the entire cap is gone. So you can see that here too. Very easy. Then if you pick a poly loop, for example, it does what? You see this small orange line that appears too. With this one, I choose the direction, and I can now delete one poly loop like that too. And if I pick one like that, I can delete this poly loop. But yeah, for now we want to delete the caps, so delete island, flat island. There we go. Not too hard. Then the other way that you could do that without the Z modeler is by going with the polygroups that we talked about before. Right now they are not separate polygroups. We could go ahead, assign this one polygroup, assign that one polygroup, and then Control Shift click on one polygroup, the other 2 are hidden, and we delete hidden. But since we're talking about hard surface, quote unquote, we can go a different route as well. Without manually assigning these polygroups, we can use the advantage that this one is a very steep angle. And if you're working with hard surface, you usually have steep angles. And here is under polygroups a button called Group by Normals. And here with a slider, you can pick an angle. So if I hit Group by Normals, everything that has a normal change that is greater than 45 degrees will get a new polygroup. Since this one is pretty much uniform, it doesn't get a new polygroup. So let's squash that here and then group by normals. You see now the angle is too high, so it created a new polygroup for front and back. So with this method, like with a button, you also can quickly create new polygroups for top and bottom. And as you can see, there's not one single way to achieve a result. There are always many. Okay, now we have the base for our skirt. How do we put that into place? So let's bring back our body and the reference. And for that one, instead of using the move brush, there is a smarter way here too, which is to use the deformers. The deformers, you saw them already, are found here in the gear icon. And then the simple cage deformer is what I use a lot. I will simply show it quickly, even though we're going to use another one. So with the deformer, you get this cage preview, and you can choose the resolution of the cage with these orange ones. And you have some other settings here too. You can play around with these as well. However, yeah, if I would want to use the deformer for that one, no problem too. I would go with a resolution of a cage that is really low, like only these 4 points at the corners. And I would mask off the points. You see that the small white dots disappear. That means only the white ones can be edited. So if I scale with the gizmo now, the bottom ones stay in place and the top ones deform. I could, whenever I change the resolution, it kind of undoes my changes. So I could use, for example, one division here in half. So when I only, and you invert the mask as usual by clicking on the background, I could create this bend. And as you can see, it's working like a cage deformer in Blender too. So I have more control over the bend, and I could go one more resolution even, make this one smaller, and then, for example, this one wider. Invert, and you see the gizmo snaps to the center of object that can be deformed too. So if I want to, I could create, for example, this S curve here for my skirt with this one too. Just so you know, and I hope I don't talk bullshit right now, but I think the cage direction depends on the gizmo. So if your gizmo is really off, let's reset that one and delete the deformer. So if I have my gizmo like that and we try the deformer too, yeah, you see the cage is not really useful for us because it's not aligned to our topology. So if our object is already kind of slightly rotated, we can delete that one and then hit Alt on our keyboard, reset the location. You see it's still not aligned. What we can do is, for example, pressing Alt on our surface and then dragging to align it to our mesh, or yeah, bring it then in the center again, like that. Okay, or we can just rotate it like that too. Good enough. Okay, so the one that I use apart from the deformer, sometimes the bent arc. With that one you can do crazy twists, especially for skirts. That could be nice. This is kind of what you would expect it to do along the tube-like axis. For this case we want to use the taper. This is the one. And let's see, bring up the reference. With the taper you have one flat surface and then you pull or push this cone and you get tapered faces. So here we kind of want to align it like that, make it wider here, then a bit wider that. This one's too wide. Kind of finding the middle ground, looking good. And if we like it, we go here and accept. And there we go, not too bad. We have the start of our skirt. We could go, the one problem that we have is with the bending, and that's something that the artist put in there. We could think maybe because of perspective, if we look from this view, it does look like maybe it's part of the design that the skirt is cut in this way. However, if we then move to the side way, this would mean it needs to look like that and not like that. So I assume this is basically the artist saying that the skirt is kind of even in all directions, and then by drawing in perspective you kind of get this bend. Because I can show you one more time, if we, for example, taper this one here and there to get the bend on the side view, then we get this other way around in the front view. And then if we bend it like that in the front view, that we have the bend here, then we get this kind of curve on the side view. So it's kind of hard to, yeah, it's hard to match the reference here. So what I would assume is that the artist meant it to be flat and then they just drew in the perspective. So this is why I just keep it flat. You can add a bit of bend here maybe because that looks nice, like that. Okay, accept. And first thing done, gotta put it in the right position for our character here as well. And then we can refine with the move brush, big move brush, activate symmetry. Like that. Like that. Okay. Then move brush adjustment here. All right, so much for the skirt. And we will do exactly the same for the coat. So one more time. We append a cylinder. We scale the cylinder. We pick a cylinder that we can actually deform the topology of. We make the one here bigger, rotate it that way. And here. And then we pick a resolution that is kind of giving us enough resolution for what we're doing, because the code is going to be stretched. Or one more thing we could do, we could leave it without any resolution, and instead, like we have 16 here from last time, instead we can also insert resolution. So let's do that for this one. So aligning it here. Then what do I mean by inserting resolution? If we go to the Z modeler, we can do an edge action. This one, right click, and then we can insert a single edge loop, or we can pick multiple edge loops. And here we have interactive resolution too. That one's exciting. So if we click and drag, we can create more edge loops, and we can also create less. And then we can, with our cylinder stretched like that, we can pick a resolution that gives us topology where it looks like quads on our mesh. And then we simply release. And then we can use the Z modeler too to delete the edges. Delete flat island, click and click. And then we want to delete the front part of our cylinder too. So in this case, not the flat island. I mean, you could do that too. But for more precision here, I would choose the poly loop, and then we can delete the polygons that are in our way. Maybe we do need here the front row. Let's check, because we have this overlap where the code is coming forward to. And with these thin surfaces, you can see that it's transparent whenever we look at the flipped normal side, like where the normals are in the wrong direction. So we can navigate to display properties, and then we have double. This one will display our faces from both sides. So here you can see. There is also, if we don't have this one on, flip, where you can flip normals, but we should leave them in the correct direction and then hit double for visualization. Okay, and now that we have some loop cuts here and we have our base geometry, we can use the deformers again. So let's taper, and we can do that. Bring it in here. And then with the white one, we can also adjust the shape a bit. Looking okay, I would say, except. And then we need to make some manual adjustments to that one. So activate symmetry, and then we kind of, like, I would go on and put this into position. Since I know I only want to modify the edge right now, I can go here. This one's also pretty handy in the UI. It's called mask by feature. So if I have only the borders selected and I hit mask by feature, it will mask off only the border. So I can go, so it masks off only the border polygons. If I use crease, whenever I have an edge loop creased, it will only mask the creased edges, and groups whenever there's like a polygroup border. But yeah, for this one, I use the normal border, then I flip. So right now I'm only affecting the border, so I can, like, my silhouette stays the same, but I can move this one here freely. And look from this side. And I can also use manual masking to bring that into position. And here from the side view, we can see that code starts somewhere here and goes straight. And I will leave this one at a very rough state because, like I said, I will upload the recording of how I then kind of nitpicking back and forth to get the code shape. But what I definitely need to show you is how to connect it to the top part. So let's leave it at that very rough state. So the top part, because the code is kind of, as I would interpret it, attached to this V shape here in the front. So how do we get the topology for this one? And here I want to show you a new brush, which is the Create Topology brush. So if we go to B and then, where is it? Topology, so BTO, doing an autosave. This brush can be a bit finicky, but in this case, I would say it's a good choice. So if we have, we don't have it selected, BTO, if we have that one selected, we can kind of draw topology onto our mesh. So I can, okay, it says it's composed of multiple subdivision levels, so the action is cancelled. So what we do here, because I want to keep my subdivision levels here, I will duplicate the mesh, duplicate, hide the one, then delete higher, delete lower. I can also rename this one trash. This one is going to move into the trash later. Okay, so I can draw topology. These are my edges, and then I can connect them. And as soon as I fill a quad completely, you see that I get the preview that this is going to be a real quad one day. And yeah, for the V-shaped line, I think we need something like this. This one's not working too well. With Alt and going over it, you can delete topology too. I guess it's going to be like that. We will fix it with the Z modeler. And then I can go all the way around here and then draw my topology on there too. So you could do extracting and then zero meshing. You can use this brush. There are, as I said, many ways to do the same result. And this one. Okay, good enough. If we click on our mesh, we get a mesh including thickness for whatever we have created. I will create one more edge loop here. And the brush size is important for this one. So if I have a smaller brush size, it will create a smaller thickness, and I will use this one. If we check the polygroups, we get a new polygroup for the thickness too. So as you know from last time, I like to work with flat meshes with planes and then add manually the thickness with the dynamic subdivision levels. So Control Shift, click on the polygroup and then delete hidden. And we can bring back the rest of our mesh too. Ooh. Here we go. And for this one, we see we have a small gap here in the back. So we can mask this off, then deactivate symmetry. And then we will move this, just so you know, this one is left, this is right. We will move this here to the right side and then do a mirror and weld. So we get this one is kind of glued together. And here in the front part, we would need to do the same because I have this messy triangle. I will mask up this part and then I can do a bit extreme all the way here, mirror and weld, and we get a nice edge loop here. And to refine our topology, as we learned, we can use the Z modeler brush. So we insert, instead of multiple edge loops, this time a single edge loop. And then we can add some more topology in the areas that we need. And we should do this entire thing with symmetry on. So this is kind of even. Let's do it like that. And now let's align it to our reference. So we take the move brush, bring it here. And then, because that one's getting a bit messy and my my mesh is not sitting 100% on my base mesh anymore, I will show you one more interesting brush that we can use in these situations. So first we need to align this one. Okay, good enough. And then we can use the Z project brush. So I will project it probably, yeah, like that with the clothing on top too. I'll hide the code. So we can go to B, Z, and P for Z project. And what it does is it kind of based on my camera, you see this one is floating on top of my mesh. If I paint on it, it's kind of glued onto the surface like that. However, big warning, it does not work too well with symmetry. So you see even though I have symmetry active, it doesn't work too well on this side. And also it kind of destroys some, like, it's a bit finicky. So best practices is try to be as orthographic to the surface that you want to be. So the more you tilt the angle, the worse your result will get. You see, like that. So the best is we look as if we are the stamp and we want to press it onto the surface. So we look from the top and then we can gently push this down onto our mesh. And then, since we know it's not symmetrical, we can do a mirror and weld. And then we gotta check, yeah, this is a bit messy, so we move across the center line, mirror and weld, looking good from the front and from the back too. Okay. And gotta clean up the last bits here, because with the project it kind of moved our topology with symmetry on. And then, as you know, we will add dynamic thickness as with the other clothing parts. So we can go to geometry, dynamic subdivision, add thickness here. This is just a preview, looking nice and good, like that. Then, as I said, we need to connect it to the back, and here we will use the modeler too. So let's bring in our code, bring this one into position, and then I merged the two together. So this one was nice for a preview, but I will hide this one for now. And then we merge these two objects together, bring them in the subtool palette on top of each other. Which one is the code? Ah, it's called trash now. Wonderful. Merge down. Okay, so they're in the same tool right now, and as I was promising, you can do all these steps in usual 3D modeling software, but you can kind of stitch this one together here in ZBrush 2. With the Z modeler, we can go to an edge and pick bridge. And by clicking on one edge and the second edge, we kind of connect these two edges and can stitch these together. Okay, there's one more missing. And yeah, if you would have cleaned that up better, then the ones at the top would align better too. Mask, cancel. Mask the borders, flip, and then we can maybe try polish by features. Polish by features will also get rid of our, like the tip here. So I will mask off the tip so that the tip stays the same. And here for the code too. And let's try polish by features one more time. Yeah. You know, and then cleaning that up a bit. So yeah, this is the base for our code. There we go. Okay, and then you could refine it and then add some more whoosh to it, etc., etc. So yeah, this one is the same. This process is the same for the skirt, this coat, you do the same. And as we did this skirt, we can do the same with that one here in the top. And then I quickly want to show you, I guess you can also now imagine how to do the cylinder here in the top using a taper deformer or the deformer. And I just want to show you the color, and then off you go into the breakout rooms. Ah yeah, and this one is basically the same. So you would add a cylinder here to this part. You then delete a poly loop, so you have a open cylinder, and you also delete the caps left and right. And then let's quickly do that too. I will duplicate that one just to show you real quick. So you would go ahead, delete an edge loop, and then you can extrude. So if you click on one edge, you can go here and then extrude the edge loop. So this one is, yeah, by this method you can also stitch together things too, if you like it's snapping and then you have it connected again. And let's find the correct settings. So the edge loop, yeah, like that. And then we can, like I said, need to activate that one, and then we can extrude this one too. Like that. And like this is really quick and messy because of the time. But we can then add thickness and etc. Then it looks like the thing that we are trying to create. Like that. And then we can use move topological to kind of adjust the position here and there for these ones. Okay, so like I promised, let's do the color. So we can do the color for the female character too, so we don't need to switch the subtools. Okay, so for this one, I would go and use the create topology brush here too, so that we have a more guided low poly base. So I go to the topology brush, have symmetry on, and then I go a bit higher than I would used to, so we kind of create a turtleneck shirt. Once again, we cannot do that on a subdivided mesh, so we keep our base body and we duplicate that one, rename this one to placeholder, and why am I writing with caps all day? And yep, delete. Then we draw the topology of this one. Okay, and then we draw the horizontal lines. And as I was saying, this one can be a bit finicky sometimes. Sometimes it's not doing so well, and you gotta delete some curves and try again. So yeah, this looks messy. It's gonna be fine later. Like that. And you kind of continue this down for, I mean, here you would need to do a bit more. Okay, let's do one split in the center if we can. Yes, only this one is not filled. Come on. Okay, here we go. Then we pick the thickness, not too much. Click on the mesh, Control Shift and click to only get this part, delete hidden. You can bring back our mesh too. Then we have the split in the back. For the front part, we kind of want to have this front part split up as we would extend this one upwards. There's kind of this V split happening here, and then we fold down these ones down. So we will move in the back. We will move this one like that without symmetry on. Over here, mirror and weld, so this one is connected. And then in the front, we will move only like the bottom ones. Move it over there, mirror and weld. And there we go. It's connected here and then open over there. So let's see if we can bring these. Brush is so big. Okay, like that. And then the last step we want to do really is we can mask off the top part and then kind of move over here. You can scale it and then move it down. And we know the trick by now that it's not showing the back face unless we go to double. I moved the one from the display properties down there to up here. And then we can kind of pull this down and right, so like that. Like that. And let's see, now this is only a plane. This is also why we need the double. I can turn off double. This is the plane that we're working with, and then use the geometry, dynamic subdivision, increases thickness, and then this one, the small bend here is happening because of the crease. And with a Z modeler, we can hover over the edge, right click, crease, edge, loop complete, and then uncrease, Alt and clicking on it. So now this one is uncreased. This one's a bit too much, like that. And then we have a color. And then for the, like this one, or like for this triangle part, we can just do a sphere and mush it together like a triangle. And then for these strips, you could, for example, go the lazy way and then just draw out a strip like that and then extract it. Then you kind of have the base shape at the right position. You could append a plane, scale it, bring it there, or you could, just mask off the area so it's kind of roughly aligned and in the scale. And then we kind of extract. Do I have something else? Extract, accept. Oh yeah, I forgot about the back part. Auto groups. Control Shift click, delete hidden, and bring out the rest. Find the gizmo. Oh. Oh, I have some. Something is interesting. Now it works. Here we go. And then since this topology is very dense, I do want to have this kind of straighter here, top and left. So I will help ZeroMeasure by pulling this into a rectangular shape. So it knows it needs to create corners here and there and not make it too round. And then I can go with the ZeroMeasure, let's say half the topology, ZeroMesh, half, until the topology gets lower. We could also pick, it has front and back, this is why it's not too nice. This is happening after the auto groups because we had thickness over there. So yeah, we need to do it a bit differently. Like that. Now we only have the planes. Now we delete hidden, then the auto groups, and then this one, and then delete hidden, so that we are only working with the plane. Move brush. Today we do a bit of speed run because there's a lot to show and not so much time. So yeah, now we have a strip of topology that we can deform more easily and then bring it into position there. Scale it, taper it, whatever you like. Here, like that. And then you know the trick. Like that. And yeah, if you want to do the tapering on this object too, we can use the gizmo. The W, where is it off to? Okay, there we go. And then Alt and clicking and dragging on the surface to kind of align our gizmo here. And then if we use the taper now, then it's kind of aligned like that. So we can, I know it's bended a bit. I should have drawn it straight if I would want to use that, but this one works too. Kind of accept. And then we have this one around welds. Ta-da! Okay, are there any open questions about certain parts of what we talked about today or what you need to do? I know that's been a lot. There will be a recording later too. I was really rushing through it, but yeah, basically you repeat the same steps over and over. You append a cylinder, you pick the resolution up here, you delete whatever geometry you don't like with the Z modeler, and all the shortcuts are on the cheat sheet. Like I said, if you click, you do the action. If you right click, you pick the action for faces, edges, and points. Use the deformers wisely. And the new things here are the topology brush. Clicking on the mesh will actually get you the geometry. And the Z project brush, like I said, use that one with care, but it can be useful too. Okay. Then you guys, we will go into the breakout sessions then, and I will see you there. Take a quick breather. I will get something to drink, like a bit of water for myself, so yeah, some time. Yep, and then see you in the breakout rooms.